Hey everybody, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Aaron Reynolds Stay at Home Show, episode 9. Hey, welcome back, and I am so glad that you've joined me for another fun and amazing episode. I hope everybody is staying home. I hope everybody is staying safe. But today, we are doing something very special on the Aaron Reynolds Stay at Home Show, and we are nerding out. That's right, we are nerding out. Now, you may be like, Aaron, what are you talking about? What does that mean? Well, there's something that you should know about me. I was, when I was a kid, and am now, and always will be, I hope, a nerd. Now, when these days, being a nerd is awesome. I mean, no one told me when I was a kid that nerds would eventually rule the world, that geeks would inherit the earth. But it's true. Nerds are everywhere, where a lot of us are nerds today. But when I was a kid, it was not like that. There were very few nerds. And those of us that were nerds, we really knew what it felt like to be left out. So, after having lived through that as a kid and having a lot of people say, oh, you're a nerd, we don't want to hang out with you, I am really excited that these days, being a nerd is an awesome thing. That being a nerd is something a lot of us want to be. Now, the big thing I think that is important about being a nerd, what makes a nerd is not what they like, whether you like comic books or Harry Potter or Pokemon or whatever it might be that you like. I think what makes a nerd is how we like what we like. Because nerds, we don't just like the things we like. No. We love the things we like. Yeah, I don't just like the things I'm a nerd about. I love them. Let me give you some examples of things that I am super nerdy about. Some of you already know I am super nerdy about spaceships. Pew, 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 pew. Yep, I love Star Wars and spaceships and making models of spaceships. Super nerdy about that. I am super nerdy about Dungeons and Dragons. I love Dungeons and Dragons. I've been playing this game since I was in 5th grade, and I still play it today. I am super nerdy about Dungeons and Dragons. I am super nerdy about video games. You might have noticed some of my t-shirts. I have a Zelda t-shirt on today. Love video games, always have. I'm super nerdy about Harry Potter. Yeah, some of you have commented that I wear a lot of Harry Potter shirts. I have my wand collection, Expelliarmus! Yeah. So I'm super nerdy about Harry Potter, and I don't just like Dungeons and Dragons. I don't just like Star Wars and spaceships. I don't just like video games. I don't just like Harry Potter. No, I love those things. So I think that's something that sets nerds aside from people that maybe aren't as nerdy. It's not what we like. It's that we like things with passion. We nerds are passionate. And so if you're a nerd, if you're passionate about something, I hope you embrace your nerdiness. I hope you let your nerd flag fly. I hope you never be ashamed to call yourself a nerd, because I proudly am a nerd. Well, it's time to move into another segment today, and that segment is Viewer Q&A. I have gotten some amazing questions over the past weeks from so many of you, and today is no exception. I have some questions today from viewers like you, and I am going to answer those questions today. Now, listen close, because if your question was chosen, it might be a question from last time's episode. It might be a question from, one of the previous episodes. But if your question was chosen, then you will win an autographed Aaron Reynolds book. And I'll give you instructions at the end for how to claim your book. So here we go. First question today is from Wyatt B. Wyatt! Wyatt goes to Lincoln Elementary School in Port Washington, Wisconsin. Wyatt says, have you written any books you haven't finished or don't like enough to publish? It's a great question, Wyatt. Very good question. The answer is yes. I have written many books that I didn't quite finish, or that I finished. Most of them I finished, but that I finished, and they just weren't. I wasn't happy with them. They weren't as good. I think a lot of people think authors, they write a book one time, they just, whatever pops in their head, they write it down and it becomes a book. No, not everything we create is perfect on the first try, or even on after many tries. So yeah, I have written many books that afterwards I looked at them and I said, I don't think that's going to become a book. Or maybe I talked to my agent or my publisher. We looked at it together and we said, we don't think that's the next Aaron Reynolds book. Let's see what else ideas are coming up. So it happens to all of us. And if that happens to you, it's a very normal thing. Thanks for that question, Wyatt. Okay, my next question comes from Mrs. Webb. Mrs. Webb is in the house. She's a third grade teacher at Claremont School in Elk Grove Village, Illinois. And she says, Aaron, I love The Back of the Bus, my book, Back of the Bus. Thanks, Mrs. Webb. It is so powerful on so many levels. Aww. She says, do you see yourself writing any other historical fiction books? Great question, Mrs. Webb. Thanks. I don't see myself writing any more historical fiction books, but I didn't originally see myself writing Back of the Bus either. The truth is, you never know where inspiration will come from. And I had no plans to write Back of the Bus. I had no plans to say, I'm going to write a historical fiction. I just was thinking one day about how inspiring Rosa Parks was to me. That no matter what your ethnic background is, no matter what color you are, she is an inspiring and amazing individual. And what she did, she wasn't a leader, she wasn't the president, she was just a normal everyday person who did something with courage, stood up against something that was wrong. And I was just thinking about how inspired I was by that. And I began to ask myself the question, like, I wonder if there were any kids on the bus that day. I wonder if there were any kids watching this play out. How did they feel? Were they scared by what they saw? Were they excited by what they saw? So I didn't plan on writing a historical fiction, but I got inspired, and that's the story that came tumbling out of my brain. So while I don't have any plans right now to write more historical fiction, Mrs. Webb, who knows where the next piece of inspiration might come from, and who knows what story it might lead to. Okay, thanks for that. Our next question comes from Kathy Brashear. Mrs. Brashear in the house. She is a librarian at Foot of 10 Elementary School in Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania. And she says, what is your favorite vacation you ever took? And did you get any story ideas while you were there? I love to travel, Mrs. Brashear. By the way, Mrs. Brashear is an author in her own right. She has a couple of brand new books that just came out. And Miss Brashear and I have met each other once or twice. And you should definitely look her up and check out her cool books because they are very fun. Mrs. Brashear, I love to travel. And trying to pick my favorite spot, that's tricky. But I think if you made me pick one, I would say when I went to Paris, France, it was one of my favorite trips. And a lot of cool things happened on that trip. But while I was on that trip, I did get a story idea. I learned a lot of things about the building of the Eiffel Tower that were very interesting to me. And I started to write, it kind of ties to the other two questions, because I started to write a historical fiction about the building of the Eiffel Tower. And I wrote the whole story, and then I got to the end of it, and I looked at it, with my agent, and we looked at it together, and we said, it's a good story. But I don't know if it's the next Aaron Reynolds book. So we just decided to put it on the shelf, and let's think about it for a while I continue to work on other stuff. So you never know where inspiration is going to come from. Hey, all three of you, Wyatt B., Mrs. Webb, and Kathy Brashear, thanks for those questions. If I asked your question, how do you claim your prize? Down below is a description box, and in that description box, you'll find my website. go to my website and email me from my website. Tell me, remind me that your question was picked, and give me your mailing address, and I will mail you a signed copy of an Aaron Reynolds book. Hey, thanks for another great round of questions from a viewer Q&A. Okay. Our next segment is one of our favorites, and it is time for Read Aloud! Now, I thought today about what would be the best Aaron Reynolds book to read aloud, and we're nerding out today, so it was obvious to me that it had to be Nerdy Birdie. Yeah, Nerdy Birdie was inspired by all things nerdy, and it was actually inspired by kind of some true things that happened to me when I was a kid as a nerd in my real life. So I would love to share it with you today. It's one of my personal favorite Aaron Reynolds books. Okay, here we go. Nerdy Birdie, written by Aaron Reynolds. That's me. Illustrated by Matt Davies. Not me, but very amazing, incredible illustrator. He is what's known in the business as a Pulitzer Prize winning illustrator. Yeah, if you don't know what a Pulitzer Prize is, you can do what I do. You can just call him Big Cheese. Yeah, because Matt Davies, he's Big Cheese. All right, here we go. Here we go. Nerdy Birdie. This is Nerdy Birdie. Aww. His glasses are too big. His wings are too small. He is allergic to birdseed. When all the other birds are hanging out together at the bird feeder, Nerdy Birdie is scrounging for breadcrumbs. Eagles, cardinals, and robins are the cool birdies. Eagle, with his wind tunnel-tested head shape, with his impressively sculpted chest muscles. He loves working out. With his abs of steel. The cardinal, with his glossy red pompadour. He's totally into fashion. With his glossy red attire. With his tail, also glossy and red. The robin, with his beady eyes with superior worm vision. His worm-fed physique. His feet, nothing to do with worms. 3 things Eagle is good at. 1, hunting. 2, fishing. 3, football. 3 things Cardinal is good at. 1, singing like a rock star. 2, posing. 3, attracting fans. 3 things Robin is good at. 1, picking on worms. 2, insulting worms. 3, eating worms. 3 things Nerdy Birdie is good at. 1, reading. 2, playing video games. 3, reading about video games. Eagles, cardinals, and robins don't care about reading. Hey guys, I just read the coolest book. Who cares? Bookworm. I eat bookworms for breakfast. Or video games. Hey guys, I just defeated the Earthworm King in World of Wormcraft. Who cares? Nerd. I eat real earthworms, not digital ones. One day, Eagle flew off to hunt. Cardinal flew off to impress fans. Robin flew off to terrorize worms. And Nerdy Birdie was alone. One thing was clear. It was awfully lonely not being a cool birdie. Hey! Why do you hang around with them? They don't even like you. But they're so cool, said Nerdy Birdie. Being cool is exhausting, said the new bird. You should hang around with us. Us? Us! After all, there's always room for another nerdy birdie. Look at them, look at them. Their glasses were too big. Their wings were too small. At least half of them had birdseed allergies. They all like to read, and most of them like to play World of Wormcraft. They were exactly like Nerdy Birdie. And then he realized something. There were way more nerdy birdies than cool birdies. And now they were all his friends. Well, Eagle didn't have any friends. Eagle hunted alone. Cardinal was always showing off. He had no friends. Know why? Because he was always showing off. Robin was too obsessed with worms to make friends. One thing was clear. It was awfully lonely being a cool birdie. But then a new bird moved into the neighborhood. The cool birds were unimpressed. Hey guys. She gives me the creeps. Why does she always wear black? It's so depressing. She eats what? The cool birdies flew away and left Vulture alone. Hey! Why do you want to hang around with them? Being cool is exhausting. You should hang around with us. Us? Us! After all, there's always room for another nerdy birdie. Right? Right, guys? Hold it! Where are her glasses? Where is her lightsaber? And have you heard what she eats? Blech. She is most definitely not one of us. Well, Nerdy Birdie was confused, but there's always room for another Nerdy Birdie, right? That's the problem. She's not a Nerdy Birdie. She's just weird. Nerdy Birdie looked at his flock of friends. The telephone wire was packed with them. He looked at the new bird, sitting there alone. And one thing was clear. It was awfully lonely being alone. This is Nerdy Birdie. His glasses are too big. His wings are too small. This is Vulture. She wears contact lenses. Her wings are enormous. Vulture eats dead things. Nerdy Birdie does not. Nerdy Birdie likes video games. Vulture does not. Nerdy Birdie and Vulture don't like all the same things, but they really like each other. If you ever need a friend, you can hang around with them. After all, there's always room for another birdie. The end. Hey, if you guys like all things nerdy, if you loved Nerdy Birdie, then there is another Nerdy Birdie book out called Nerdy Birdie Tweets. And now that you know this one, I definitely encourage you to check out Nerdy Birdie Tweets, read it, pick it up for yourself. I hope you love it. You guys, I have had such an amazing time nerding out with you guys today. And now, as we move towards the end of the episode, I have some news that I need to share with you. Today, this episode will be the final episode of the Aaron Reynolds stay-at-home show. I know. It's a sad thing. When I started this out, the very beginning of the pandemic. I never planned on trying to be a YouTube star or anything like that. I just was getting a lot of requests from kids and librarians and teachers like you guys saying, hey, our kids are stuck at home. They'd love to hear from you. Is there any way you could shoot a video? And there was just no way I could shoot videos for all the schools that were asking me. So I thought creating this show would be a way to help maybe a lot of us get through the pandemic, have a chance for me to connect with you guys through a video, and maybe encourage us all for fun and laughs and silliness and reading along the way. But I never planned to do it forever, and so as we move towards official summer break, I know most of, or if not all of us, aren't going back to school this year. But we're wrapping up the official school year, and so as I move into heavy-duty writing projects, I realize the time has come for me to bring this show to a close. But hey, that doesn't mean that you can't ever see me again. I hope you will read all of my books. And hey, if you're a librarian or a teacher and you would love for me to be able to visit your kids and your schools in person, go to my website, email me through my website. I visit schools all the time, and hopefully when fall rolls back around, we'll all be back in school where we should be, and I'll be visiting all kinds of schools, maybe yours. Hey, it's been so great for you to come each week and hang out with me on the Aaron Reynolds Stay at Home Show. And now the time has come for me to say my final farewell. But I hope to see you at your school sometime. And even if I don't, I hope you will continue to read all of my books and all of the new ones that I'm planning on writing and that will be coming out soon. Hey, thanks for joining us and thanks for being with us on another incredible episode of the Aaron Reynolds Stay at Home Show.